Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I used to work the night shift at a gas station just off Route 46. In a quiet stretch between two towns nobody really stops in, unless they're low on gas or trying to get some sleep in their car. This was about a year ago, back when I was picking up extra hours to pay off some medical bills. My name's Connor. I was 26 at the time, living alone, and I didn't mind the solitude of overnight work. The station was small, just two pumps out front, a cramped convenience store and one of those old freezers you had to shove open with your shoulder. We weren't supposed to get much traffic after midnight, and most nights were slow. I'd pass the time restocking shelves, listening to true crime podcasts or watching moths slam against the glass doors like they were desperate to get in. That night started off no different. It was a Thursday, around 11:30 p.m., and the air had that weird stillness to it, like even the wind had gone to sleep. I noticed a black pickup truck parked way off in the far corner of the lot, past the pumps, half in the shadows near the fence. It wasn't pulled up to a pump and nobody got out. I figured maybe the driver was taking a nap or waiting for someone. Not totally unusual, but still. Something about how it was angled, like it was deliberately hiding, made me uneasy. I kept glancing out the window every so often, but there was no movement. Just that truck, idling in the dark. A couple hours passed. Midnight came and went. I started to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing. Maybe the truck left, and I just hadn't noticed. But when I walked to the back to take out some trash, I peeked through the side door window and saw it was still there. Lights off now. No sound, no movement. I remember getting this weird cold feeling in my chest, like when you realize you forgot to lock your door at night. I decided to make a note of the license plate, but it was too far and too dark to make it out clearly. I went back inside and locked the front door, just in case. Around 2:15 a.m., I was behind the counter restocking cigarette packs when the store lights suddenly flickered, then shut off completely. Total blackout. I froze. My first instinct was that the power had gone out, but then I heard the unmistakable pop of the security camera system shutting down. Not just the lights. Everything went dark. A second later, I heard the side door swing open fast, followed by heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. My brain kicked into panic mode. I didn't even stop to check how many there were. I just bolted toward the freezer in the back, praying they hadn't seen me. The freezer door was heavy and loud, but I managed to slip inside without making too much noise. I pulled it shut behind me and crouched between stacks of frozen pizza boxes and bags of ice, my breath turning white in the air. My fingers were shaking so bad, I almost dropped my phone trying to unlock it. I dialed 911 and whispered what was happening as quietly as I could. The dispatcher told me to stay hidden and stay on the line. I could barely hear her over the sound of footsteps echoing through the store. At least 3 different voices, all male, all angry. One of them kicked something over and I heard glass shatter. The longer I sat there, the colder it got. I hadn't grabbed my hoodie from the counter, and I was only wearing a thin work shirt. The metal floor under my jeans felt like ice. Every sound outside felt 10 times louder in that silence. Drawers opening, shelves being knocked over, the beep of the register being pried open. Then one of them said something that made my heart almost stop. Check the back, see if anyone's here. I held my breath so hard my chest ached. I could hear the footsteps coming closer, slow and deliberate, like they already knew someone was hiding. The freezer wasn't soundproof. I knew that. And I could hear whoever it was moving around right outside, knocking on walls, opening doors. At one point, the freezer handle jiggled. Just once. A quick pull, then silence. I don't know if they didn't think to check inside, or if they assumed it would be locked from the inside. But that pause, that second or two of them just standing there, inches from me, with only a metal door between us, felt like an eternity. I was holding my breath so tight I thought I might pass out. And then They walked away. Maybe a minute later, maybe 5, I heard it. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer, then fast. The voices outside turned frantic. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but there was panic in their tone now. Things crashing, footsteps running, the side door slamming again. I stayed frozen, literally and figuratively, until the dispatcher told me officers were on site. Even then, I didn't move until one of them opened the freezer and called out. My legs were numb and I had to be helped out. I'd never been so relieved and so terrified at the same time. Turns out the guys had been watching the station for a while. The truck? It wasn't random. They'd parked there a few nights earlier too, but I hadn't noticed. According to the cops, they were scoping the place out, checking our camera angles, timing how often people came by, and figuring out the weak spots. They cut the power from the external panel behind the building, something I didn't even know was accessible without a key. The scariest part? They weren't just robbing the register. They brought zip ties, duct tape, even a taser. I don't like thinking about what could have happened if I hadn't gotten into that freezer fast enough. The detectives were kind, but you could tell they'd seen worse. One of them, Officer Ramirez, told me plain and simple, "You did the right thing hiding." These guys weren't amateurs. They hadn't caught them yet, but they had good leads. The truck had been stolen a week before from a town 2 hours away, and they found it dumped behind a shuttered diner off the highway. Fingerprints were smudged, but there were boot prints in the dirt around the station that matched 3 different sets. Whoever they were organized, and they were ready to hurt someone. I quit that job a few weeks later. Couldn't handle the night shift anymore. Every creak in the walls, every car that slowed down in the lot, it all made my heart race. I moved back in with my brother for a bit just to get my head on straight. I still check locks more than I probably need to. Still glance over my shoulder in gas stations. The weird thing is, nothing was ever really taken. A few scratchers, some cash, a display of vape pens. But the fear, that's what they left behind. Like it soaked into the walls and followed me home. I think about that moment a lot. The freezer door handle twitching. If he'd pulled it just a little harder, or if the hinges had squeaked louder, if I'd dropped my phone, if I'd frozen for even 1 second longer out there on the floor. It makes you realize how thin the line is between a story you tell and a headline someone else reads about you. I don't know who those men were or what they planned, but I do know one thing. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they almost got away with it. I've been working night security at St. Gabriel Medical Center in downtown Denver for a little over 5 years now. The graveyard shift isn't for everyone, but it works for me. Fewer people, quieter halls, and I've always preferred the calm that comes after midnight. I'm 36, divorced, no kids, and most of my time outside work is spent either restoring vintage radios or watching old crime documentaries. Nothing too exciting. But I've always found some comfort in the routine. Knowing the hospital like the back of my hand, doing the rounds, nodding at the same exhausted nurses night after night. That was until last November, when a shift that should have been just another blur turned into something I still can't fully explain. That night started like any other. It was cold, low 30s, the kind of wind that rattles the exterior vents and makes every door creak a little louder. I remember sipping burnt coffee from the vending machine around 2:15 a.m., scrolling through shift logs, waiting for the janitors to check in. Every night they radio in when moving to the next floor. Routine, simple. But around 2:30, I noticed Ramon, one of our newer janitors, hadn't checked in since the basement level. He was assigned to floors 1 through 4, and we usually heard from him every 20-30 minutes. I gave it a few more, then radioed him. Nothing. I tried twice more. Still nothing. That's when I opened up the surveillance cams. Ramon's route showed up fine at first. He started in the basement storage area, went through the laundry corridor, and then took the service elevator to the 2nd floor. He waved to a nurse in the hall. All normal. But then I watched something that made my stomach clench. Around 2:12 a.m., he entered Wing C, an older part of the hospital that's been locked down for months. Renovation delays, no patience, no staff. And the only way in is through a double-door system that requires a key card clearance above his level. I know because even I need to call Central for override access. The weirdest part? The doors opened for him like they were already unlocked. He looked hesitant, glanced around once and then stepped inside. The doors shut behind him, and he never came back out. I immediately got on the radio and called the on-duty nurse supervisor, Erica, to confirm if any emergency work orders had been placed for Wing C. Nothing. No reason for anyone to be in there. I ran a quick cross-check on the logs. No keycard use, no override request, and the doors didn't even register as having opened. I grabbed my flashlight, clipped on my badge, and headed straight there. I wasn't panicking yet, but I had that gnawing, crawling feeling in my gut. The one you get when something's wrong, and you know it before the facts catch up. When I got to Wing C, everything looked untouched. The kind of untouched that gives off a weird stillness. Lights dim, air colder. No sound except the distant hum of fluorescent tubes and my own boots echoing through the hall. I started checking rooms one by one. Most were empty patient rooms, stripped of equipment, some with sheets still half folded from months ago. The last time I was in Wing C was during a fire drill 2 months prior, and even then it felt eerie. That night, though, it felt different, like the walls were pressing in. About halfway down the hall, I noticed a rolling supply cart parked at an angle near room 307, blocking part of the doorway. Ramon wasn't anywhere in sight, but a used mop was leaned against the wall beside it, like someone had just stepped away for a second. I called out his name. Ramon? My voice didn't echo. It just kind of died midair. I waited. Nothing. That's when I noticed the cart had no hospital label, no department tag, no supply slip, just plain metal. That might seem like nothing, but in a hospital where everything is cataloged, that's weird. I radioed again, this time asking for backup, but the static kicked in hard. It happens in Wing C sometimes. Bad signal, dead spots, but it felt too convenient. I pulled my phone, tried to call Central Dispatch. No service. I kept going. When I reached the storage room at the end of the hall, the lock was busted, like someone had pried it open with a crowbar or something. The door wasn't fully shut, so I pushed it slowly. The second I opened it, the smell hit me, like sweat and metal and something sour like old meat. My flashlight flickered as I stepped inside, and that's when I saw Ramon. He was on the floor, tied up with zip ties around his wrists and ankles, mouth duct-taped, eyes wide open. His head jerked when he saw me, like he'd been trying to stay conscious. I rushed to untie him, heart hammering. He was trembling, soaked in sweat, and there was dried blood on the side of his face. I asked who did it, what happened, but he just kept whispering. He said he worked here, over and over. I had to carry him partway down the hall until one of the orderlies finally arrived to help. We got him to the ER, and eventually, after some fluids and sedatives, he started giving more details. The guy who attacked him was wearing scrubs, said his name was Kyle, and that he was doing rounds. He had a badge, a stethoscope, the whole thing. But Ramon noticed the badge didn't match the uniform. When he hesitated, the man got behind him and choked him until he blacked out. When he came to, he was in that room, tied up and alone. Later that morning, police pulled surveillance footage from the other floors. They spotted the man briefly near the cafeteria vending machines. Just one frame, barely clear. He had on blue scrubs and a visitor pass clipped low on his waist, like he didn't want it seen. Turns out he wasn't staff at all. He was the older brother of a patient who'd been admitted a week earlier for psychiatric observation. Apparently, he had a history of violent episodes and had been removed twice before for aggressive behavior toward nurses. No one knows how he got a staff badge or where he found the uniform. We think he may have followed someone into a staff-only area and just blended in. That was the last anyone saw of him. He slipped out before sunrise. Security tightened up after that. Cameras updated, keycards replaced. But I still don't understand why he took Ramon. Why tie him up in a sealed wing? Why not run? or hurt him worse. Ramon ended up quitting a few weeks later. Can't blame him. He didn't even give notice, just left his badge on the break room table and never came back. I ran into his cousin at a gas station a couple months after, and he said Ramon had moved out of state and didn't like talking about what happened. Said he still wakes up thinking he's back in that room. I don't think he ever got over the idea that someone could just walk in, dressed like one of us, and disappear like smoke. We both knew that part of the hospital wasn't just neglected, it was vulnerable. Forgotten corners always attract the worst kind of attention. I kept working there, but I never looked at Wing C the same way. Sometimes on slow nights, I'd scroll back through the footage from that week, trying to catch something I might have missed. A shadow, a glitch, anything. But all I ever saw was that moment where Ramon hesitates outside the door, and something on the other side lets him in. The police said the attacker likely forced the doors open with some kind of tool, but that doesn't explain the logs. No forced entry recorded, no tampering. Just silence. Like he was supposed to be there. Like the system didn't even register him as a threat. That's what keeps me up some nights. Not the violence, but the quiet way it all happened. I started double-checking every badge I saw after that. Even nurses I've known for years. We had a meeting where they told us not to profile anyone, but I couldn't help it. Once you see how easy it is for someone to slip into your world unnoticed, you stop trusting how secure that world really is. There was this one time, about a month later, when I passed a guy in the elevator wearing the same shade of scrubs. My chest locked up. He nodded at me casually and got off on the 3rd floor. Nothing happened, of course. But I checked the staff directory that night, and I didn't find anyone with his face. Maybe he was afloat from another hospital, or maybe I just missed the tag. But part of me still wonders if he was watching me, if he knew. A few people at the hospital started calling it the ghost shift, not because they believed in ghosts, but because of how fast it all happened, how someone came and went without ever leaving a trace. But I've stopped trying to find logic in it. There's something about hospitals at night. The way the lights hum, the way time stretches and bends when no one's around. You start to realize that the scariest things don't come from outside. They come from within, from people, from places we think are safe. I still work nights, still make my rounds. But every now and then when I pass Wing C, I slow down, just for a second, and I listen, because sometimes I swear I hear the door click. I was working the night shift at a rural police substation in western Nebraska when it happened. This was back in 2019. I had taken the job about 6 months prior, mostly because it was quiet and I liked the solitude. My name's Megan, and at the time I was 32, divorced, and trying to start over after leaving Omaha. The substation was just outside a town called Prairie Bend, population maybe 800 if you count the cows. Most nights I handled radio calls, did some report logging, and brewed too much coffee. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave me time to breathe. That particular night started off like any other, calm, routine, almost boring. I had no idea how bad it would get. The building was small, just a 1-story concrete structure with a couple of holding cells, an evidence room, 2 offices, and a dispatcher desk facing the front door. We didn't have a jail or even a full-time officer after 10 p.m. Just me, a computer screen, and a radio. The exterior lights buzzed like dying mosquitoes, and the gravel parking lot outside was barely lit. Around midnight, I got a call from Officer Reynolds letting me know he was finishing up a DUI transport to county and wouldn't be back until close to 2 a.m. So, for a while, I was alone, or at least, I thought I was. Around 12:45 a.m., the landline rang. When I answered with the usual Prairie Bend substation, "This is Megan," no one spoke. Just silence. I figured it was a prank call or a cell pocket dial. I hung up. 15 minutes later, it rang again. Same thing. Dead silence. Not even background noise like wind or breathing. The third time it happened, I got this strange chill down my arms, like my body was trying to tell me something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. I double-checked the call log. The number was blocked each time. I've had weird calls before, sure, but something about the timing and the quiet felt off. I decided to get up and walk the building, just to shake the nerves. It was dumb. I knew it was dumb, but it felt like something was pressing down on me, like the air had gotten heavier. I left the dispatch desk, took the flashlight off the wall, and started walking past the holding cells. Nothing. Evidence room locked as usual. Then I turned toward the side hallway that leads to the back entrance and immediately froze. The heavy steel door that should have been locked from the inside was slightly open, just enough to catch a sliver of the outside light and push a wave of cold air into the hallway. I remember saying out loud, "Nope, hell no." My heart was in my throat. I backed away from the door, slow and quiet, like I was trying not to wake something up. I couldn't hear footsteps or movement, just that unsettling quiet, like the whole place was holding its breath. I locked the hallway door behind me and returned to the dispatch room, hands shaking so hard I fumbled the keys twice. I didn't have a weapon, dispatchers weren't issued any, and I wasn't about to go playing hero. I grabbed the office keys, ran to the sergeant's office at the end of the corridor, and locked myself inside. That room had no windows, but it had a solid core door and a second lock. I slid a filing cabinet in front of it anyway, just in case. Once inside, I turned off the overhead light and crouched behind the desk. I was sweating through my shirt, listening for any sign of movement. Every tiny sound, the creak of the HVAC, the hum of the vending machine outside, felt like someone breathing just inches from the door. I whispered into the radio to request backup from county, and the dispatcher on the other end confirmed they were sending a unit. Estimated arrival, 25 minutes. That might not sound long, but when you think someone could be creeping down the hall toward you, 25 minutes feels like an eternity. I remember staring at the thin crack of light beneath the door, just waiting for it to go dark. About 10 minutes in, I heard it. A soft, metallic click. It came from the hallway, too distant to be the office door, but close enough to tell it was inside. Then something scraped gently along the wall. Not footsteps exactly, like fabric brushing against drywall. It moved past the office once, then again a minute later, slower that time. I felt this electric pressure in my chest like I couldn't even take a full breath. Whoever it was, they weren't trying to leave. They were trying to wait me out. I kept thinking, why aren't they rushing in? Why are they taking their time? Then came the sound that still turns my stomach. The doorknob to the office, my door, turned slowly and stopped. Just a slight rattle followed by complete silence. Whoever was out there knew I was inside, and they wanted me to know they knew. I had one hand over my mouth, trying not to make a sound. No footsteps, no words. Just the occasional subtle shift, like someone adjusting their weight right outside. I didn't blink for what felt like minutes. I just kept the radio clutched in my hand, repeating to myself, just hold on, hold on, hold on. About 5 minutes before backup arrived, everything went completely silent again. No movement, no sound, just stillness. It was worse than the noise somehow, like they'd given up, or were planning something else. I didn't dare move the cabinet or make a sound. I just sat there with my legs cramping and my jaw clenched so tight it felt locked. Then, without warning, the hallway lights flickered just once, and that was enough. I squeezed the mic and whispered again into the radio, begging for an ETA update. The dispatcher confirmed they were just pulling in. I almost cried. When I finally heard the heavy front door open and the sound of boots on tile, I nearly collapsed from relief. I stayed put until I heard Officer Reynolds call my name. Only then did I shove the cabinet aside and unlock the door, still clutching the flashlight like a weapon. There were 2 officers, Reynolds and a deputy from county, and they immediately began clearing the building. I stayed with the dispatcher mic, giving them directions while trying not to throw up. It took them 15 minutes to finish the sweep. They didn't find anyone, but they did find something else. The side door, definitely forced open from the inside, like someone had unbolted it and used a screwdriver to wedge it from within. Even worse, in the supply closet near the holding cells, They found a used water bottle, a granola wrapper, and a dirty blanket tucked behind a shelving unit. Whoever it was had been hiding in there for hours, probably since early evening, maybe before I even started my shift. A sickening realization hit me all at once. Whoever had been calling me, whoever tried that office door, had been watching me the entire night, listening, waiting. They never found the person. No prints, no ID, nothing left behind that could lead anywhere. The security cameras out back had been out of service for over a week, a maintenance ticket still pending. After that night, I never worked alone again. I transferred to the main county office 6 months later. But I still think about that night, about how close they were, and I can't stop wondering what might have happened if that door hadn't been locked, or if I'd opened it when they first knocked. I don't scare easy, but that night, that one changed me. I've been working highway maintenance night shifts for almost 7 years now. I like the quiet, to be honest. No traffic, no people breathing down your neck. Just me, the asphalt, and the hum of the truck. My name's Travis, 38, divorced, and I live about 40 minutes outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I work mostly along the back service roads near I-81, the ones no one really thinks about until there's a problem. That night started off like any other, around 10:30 p.m. And I was heading toward mile marker 212, where a camera had picked up a vehicle that hadn't moved in hours. Dispatch logged it as a potential breakdown. When I pulled up, the van was sitting awkwardly on the shoulder of the service road. No hazard lights, no cones. Just this older white Chevy Express, kind of rusted around the wheel wells. Windows tinted darker than legal, which already gave me a weird feeling. It was backed up near the tree line way off from the main highway, like someone wanted it hidden. I approached with my flashlight, knocked on the driver's window. Nothing. No movement, no sound. I tried the door. It was unlocked. The smell hit me first. Sour, metallic, and sharp. It wasn't just old fast food or a spilled drink. I've smelled blood before. I hunt in the fall, and this was that. But worse. The interior looked mostly empty until I stepped around the back. That's when I saw it. A crumpled black hoodie soaked in what was very clearly blood. Some torn duct tape still stuck to the fibers. Next to it, a pair of what looked like ankle restraints, zip tie style, and a plastic grocery bag with a woman's tank top and leggings, both stained red. My throat tightened. I froze, completely unsure what the hell I'd just walked into. I stepped back, hands shaking, and grabbed my radio. Told dispatch what I found and asked them to send state troopers ASAP. They told me to stay put, secure the area. While I was waiting, I kept looking around, trying to piece it together. Was this an accident? A setup? Then I noticed something. Off to my left, about 30 yards into the woods. There was a figure standing between the trees. Barely visible, but I could see the shape of someone just watching me. No flashlight, no phone glow. Just stillness. And then, they moved. Not toward me, just slipped back into the dark like they were never there. I stood there frozen, staring into the trees, trying to convince myself it was just an animal, or maybe a hunter passing through. But something about the way that person moved. It was too fluid, too deliberate. I called it in again, told dispatch I saw someone in the woods nearby. They asked if I felt threatened. I didn't even know how to answer. I wasn't hurt, but something was off. You know that gut feeling? Like every part of your body is telling you to get the hell out? That's what this was. But I stayed. I had to. It's protocol. About 10 minutes later, I saw the first patrol car pull up behind me. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in minutes. I briefed the officer, young guy, maybe mid-20s, told him everything. What I found in the van, the person in the woods. He looked spooked but professional, started taping off the area, calling in backup. Within half an hour, there were 2 more cruisers, and they started a sweep of the forest line with flashlights. But no one turned up. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. It was like whoever or whatever I saw had disappeared into thin air. One of the detectives on the scene, older woman, name was Detective Rowan, pulled me aside and asked if I'd heard the news earlier. I hadn't. I usually keep the radio off. She said a woman named Chelsea Grant, 29, had been reported missing by her sister around noon that day. She'd left for a morning jog and never came home. The description matched the clothes in the bag almost perfectly. My stomach dropped. That van wasn't just suspicious, it was possibly the last place that woman had been alive. I didn't know what to say. I just kept replaying the image of that figure in the trees over and over in my head. They towed the van away for evidence and told me I'd probably get a follow-up call in a few days. I stayed behind while they packed up, just watching the woods, scanning the shadows like they might move again. I kept wondering why the figure had just stood there, why they didn't run immediately. It felt like they were studying me, like they wanted me to see them. That part messed with my head more than anything else. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't seen them? What if they hadn't wanted to be seen? That night, I barely slept. I kept my phone nearby in case the cops called, but mostly I just stared at the ceiling, thinking about the van, the clothes, the person in the woods. Every little creak in the house made me jump. The worst part was this feeling I couldn't shake, like I had been watched long before I ever noticed them standing there, like maybe they were already nearby when I pulled up. I started replaying everything. How quiet it was when I arrived, how the van was positioned, how the back doors weren't even fully closed. It felt staged, like a trap someone hadn't finished setting. 2 days later, Detective Rowan did call me. She asked more questions, wanted to know if I'd seen any vehicle nearby, heard anything unusual before spotting the van. I hadn't. I told her everything again. Then she mentioned something that gave me chills. When they ran the plates, the van hadn't been reported stolen, but it also didn't belong to Chelsea or anyone in her family. It was registered to a man named Alan Proctor, a name already flagged in a previous assault case from another state. But when they went to his last known address, the place was abandoned. Just like the van, just like the woods. Over the next few weeks, I kept checking the news. Chelsea's body was never found. Just the van, the bloody clothes, and silence. The police said they were following leads, but things went quiet fast. I returned to my regular shifts, but I started carrying a sidearm. Not really for animals or accidents, just for peace of mind. Every time I drove that same stretch of road, I'd slow down near the spot where I found the van. I even stopped once or twice, looking toward the tree line, hoping to see something, or maybe hoping I wouldn't. A few months passed, and the nightmares started to fade. Life moved on, but last week something happened that brought everything back. I got a letter, no return address. Inside was a photo, grainy, taken at night. It showed my maintenance truck, parked beside that van from the night it all happened. The angle, it was taken from the woods, from behind me. Written on the back of the photo, in red ink, were just 4 words. You saw me first. I used to work nights as a delivery driver for a local food app in Kansas City. It was decent money, especially on weekends when the tips got better. This happened about a year ago, in early fall. I remember because it was just starting to get cold at night, and I had that annoying head cold you get when the seasons change. I was 25, living alone in a small apartment near downtown, and doing delivery full-time while trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. That night started off like any other. I had just dropped off a pizza to a college dorm when I got a high-paying order, marked as a group order for a warehouse party on the industrial edge of town. Big tip included. Sounded weird, but honestly, I didn't question it. Money was money. The address led me down toward a part of the city I usually avoided at night. It was one of those forgotten industrial zones, with broken streetlights and buildings that looked like they hadn't been touched since the 80s. As I pulled up, I noticed the warehouse was huge and completely unlit, with no other cars nearby. That struck me as odd. For a party, you'd expect some noise, lights, anything. But it was dead silent. The place looked like it had been abandoned for years, all rusted siding and cracked windows. I double-checked the address. It matched. Even the order note said, "Come to the side gate, bring food inside, just knock." I pulled up to the gate and immediately got a bad feeling. First off, the chain securing it was hanging loose like someone had cut or bent it. One of the locks was literally lying on the ground, cracked open. The gate itself looked like it had been yanked sideways to make room for someone, or something, to slip through. I paused there for a second with the bag of food in my passenger seat, just staring at that entrance. My gut was twisting. Something felt off in a way I couldn't explain. I grabbed my phone and called the number attached to the order, more out of curiosity than anything. The guy picked up on the first ring. His voice was calm, a little too calm. "Yeah, just bring it inside. Side door's open," he said. I asked if he could meet me at the gate since it was kinda sketchy, and he laughed a bit, low, short, no humor in it. "Come on, man. I'm already inside. Just bring it in." The way he said that, I don't know how to describe it. There was something performative about it, like he was trying to sound casual, but it didn't sit right. I didn't respond immediately, and after a few seconds of silence, he added, "Don't worry, we're all waiting. We're all waiting." Not "I'll come out," not "we'll meet you." Just that. It gave me this weird chill I couldn't shake. At that point, every instinct in my body was screaming at me to leave. I don't consider myself paranoid, but something about this whole situation was wrong in a way I couldn't rationalize. I put the phone down without saying anything else, and just sat there in the car, engine running, staring at that massive metal building. The windows were pitch black, not a single sign of life inside. No footsteps, no music, no shadows passing by. If there really was a party in there, it was the quietest one I'd ever seen. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Next to the side door, half hidden in the weeds, was a crowbar lying on the ground. It wasn't just tossed there, it was placed, neatly, like someone had set it down and planned to use it again. And suddenly the phrase, "We're all waiting," echoed in my head again, except now it sounded more like a warning than an invitation. I turned to look back at the street, completely empty. No passing cars, no streetlights, just the glow from my headlights reflecting off the warehouse wall. I took one last look at the order bag and thought, screw this. I threw the car in reverse and backed out of there fast, turning down the nearest street that led back to a main road. I drove about 3 blocks before pulling over in front of a gas station. I sat there for a minute, heart pounding, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. I've done hundreds of deliveries before, but nothing had ever come close to giving me that kind of dread. I decided to call the app's support line to report the address as suspicious, but they just said I could cancel the order and move on. That didn't sit right with me, especially with the broken gate and the tools lying around. So I did something I've never done before. I called the non-emergency police line. I explained the situation, left the address, and told them I wasn't sure what was going on, but something about it felt seriously wrong. The operator didn't seem that concerned at first, but I think the detail about the lock being broken and the crowbar caught her attention. She said a patrol car would go check it out. I didn't expect anything to come of it. Honestly, I figured they'd drive by, see nothing, and that'd be the end of it. I went home, still uneasy, and tried to sleep, but I kept hearing that guy's voice in my head. Just bring it inside. We're all waiting. Around 3 a.m., my phone rang. It was an unknown number, and against my better judgment, I picked up. It was the police. The officer on the line asked if I was the one who had reported the warehouse on Haskell Avenue. I said yeah, and he paused for a second before telling me they'd gone to check it out. What he described next made my blood run cold. The building was completely empty. No lights, no signs of a party. But inside, near the back of the warehouse, they found a folding table with several items laid out. Zip ties, duct tape, latex gloves, and a roll of black trash bags. There was also a burner phone with no contacts and a stack of fast food delivery bags, all unused. No one was inside and there were no cameras. Whoever had called me was gone by the time they got there. I just sat there, staring at the wall in the dark, gripping the phone tighter with every word. It hit me all at once. This wasn't some prank or mistaken address. Someone had lured me there on purpose. They wanted me to come inside. The table wasn't for a party. It was for me. Or someone like me. I kept thinking about how specific the instructions were. Bring it inside. Just knock. Like they were trying to get me to cross a line, to step out of my car and into that place, where they'd be waiting in the dark. What would have happened if I had knocked on that side door? If I had listened? The officer asked if I'd be willing to come down the next day and give a formal statement, so I did. I showed them the delivery app, the contact number, everything. The app number was already deactivated and no payment had ever been processed. The whole order was fake, a setup. I asked them if this had happened before, but the cop didn't say much. Just that the area had seen some unusual activity over the past few months, and they were now looking into whether it was connected. I never got any real answers. Just a thank you for reporting it, and a weird look when I described the guy's voice on the phone. I quit delivery work the next week, cold turkey. I couldn't shake the thought that if I had hesitated just a little less, if I had gotten out of the car to be polite, I might have ended up as one of those missing person flyers you see taped to light poles. I still check the news sometimes, hoping to find something that explains who set that up or if they ever caught anyone. But nothing's come up. It's like it never happened, except that it did. I still remember every detail, the silence, the crowbar, that voice saying, "We're all waiting." Sometimes I wonder if someone else took a delivery to that warehouse after me, and if they walked in. I started working night shifts as a commercial cleaner about 8 months ago, shortly after moving back to Pennsylvania. It's not the kind of job you dream of, but it paid okay, and after everything I'd gone through, messy divorce, car repossessed, sleeping on my sister's couch, I needed something steady. The job's simple: clean 3 floors of a corporate tower downtown between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. No coworkers, no small talk, just me, my headphones, and the hum of empty elevators. Honestly, I liked it that way. The quiet gave me space to breathe, to think. I'm not the jumpy type. I've always been practical, level-headed. But what happened last Friday night changed how I feel about being alone. Completely. The building is one of those glass and steel high-rises that looks fancier than it is. It's got 15 floors, but I only clean 8 through 10, mainly offices, conference rooms, and a kitchenette on each floor. Security locks up at 8:30 and leaves right after. I've got a badge that gets me into the floors I need, and cameras watch the rest, or at least they're supposed to. That night I clocked in like usual. Everything seemed fine. I started on floor 10, working my way down, same routine I've done dozens of times. But when I got back to floor 9 after finishing the others, just to double-check the break room, I noticed the lights in the hallway were back on. I know I turned them off. That switch makes a loud click. I remember the sound. At first I figured maybe maintenance came by or security forgot something, but when I checked the log sheet downstairs later, it showed no activity after my initial swipe. Still, I brushed it off. I turned the lights off again, checked the doors, and moved on. Around 12:15 a.m. I went back up to floor 10 to grab a rag I'd left behind, and that's when I heard it, metal rattling. It was faint, like a vent cover being moved or something brushing inside the walls. I froze in place. Thought maybe it was the HVAC system kicking in, but then it stopped, complete silence. I stood there holding my breath, then shrugged it off again. Old building, I whispered to myself. Metal shifts, pipes settle. But deep down, my gut started to tighten. About an hour later, I was nearly done. I had just finished vacuuming one of the glass conference rooms when I realized the hallway behind me, empty when I walked in, wasn't empty anymore. One of the doors that had definitely been closed was now slightly open. I stopped the vacuum, Total silence, the kind that presses against your eardrums. I walked toward the door slowly, calling out, "Hello? Is someone there?" No answer. I pushed it open with the edge of my mop handle. Nothing inside, just a row of desks and a weird chemical smell, like old sweat and plastic. I swear the air felt used, like someone had been in there too long. Still no one. I shut the door and started feeling watched. I went down to the janitor's closet on floor 8 to grab a new trash liner and splash cold water on my face. I was trying to shake the paranoia off, telling myself it was just a weird night. I bent over the sink, letting the water run, and that's when I heard it. My name. Clear as day. Amber. I spun around so fast I nearly slipped. No one was there. The door was still closed. My heart was thudding in my ears and the faucet was still running. I turned it off and stood frozen for a good 30 seconds, waiting to hear it again. Nothing. But the way the voice said it, it wasn't like someone yelling from far away. It was close. Calm. Like someone standing right behind me. I locked myself inside that closet for at least 10 minutes, listening, barely breathing. I kept thinking, what if someone's still here? What if they've been here all night and I just didn't notice? My brain went into overdrive. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone hacked the intercom. Maybe I'm just sleep-deprived. But then I remembered the security guard's warning from a few weeks back. He joked, half serious, "If you ever hear something weird up there past midnight, just ignore it. This place is creepy after hours." At the time, I laughed it off. Now I wasn't so sure. I texted him, "Hey, anyone else supposed to be here tonight?" He didn't answer. Eventually, I forced myself to open the door. Everything looked normal again, which somehow made it worse. I was heading back to floor 10 to grab my things and leave early. My hands were still trembling, when I saw something that made my stomach twist. One of the swivel chairs in the last office on the right was spinning. Not wildly, just slowly turning, like someone had just stood up and walked away. There was no air vent above it, no open windows. I stood frozen in the hallway, staring at that damn chair like it was going to say something. Then I heard a click behind me. One of the glass doors, one I hadn't touched in over an hour, was now ajar. That's when panic really hit. I backed away, pulled out my phone, and called 911. I didn't even hesitate. I told the dispatcher I thought someone was in the building with me. She asked if I'd seen anyone. I told her no, but that I kept hearing things and someone had said my name. She stayed on the line with me while I went to the elevator. I remember staring at the security camera in the hallway, wondering if someone else was watching me too. The elevator took forever. When it finally dinged, I nearly cried. I stepped in, pressed the lobby button, and right as the doors started to close, I swear to God I saw a figure step out from behind the copier room. Tall, male, wearing a staff badge. The cops showed up maybe 5 minutes later. I met them outside the building, shaking, trying not to cry in front of strangers. 2 officers went in while one stayed with me. I told them everything, about the lights, the voice, the chair, the man I saw. I could tell they were trying not to look skeptical, but they took it seriously enough to search the building. I sat in the back of the squad car while they went floor by floor. At one point, one of the officers radioed something in, and the one with me turned his head fast. That's when I knew it wasn't just in my head. They'd found something. Turns out someone had been living in the building. They found a makeshift sleeping area hidden in a locked storage closet on floor 11. Blankets, food wrappers, even a burner phone and some ID badges, one of which matched the badge I'd seen. The guy had been using a stolen staff pass to move through certain floors. Security had no idea, and because the cameras on floors 10 and 11 had been under maintenance for weeks, no one caught it. What's worse, they think he'd been watching people. Tracking when the building was empty. Watching me. He was arrested that night, but they never told me his name. Just that he had no connection to the company, no reason to be there. They guessed he slipped in one evening during the day shift and just never left. He'd been hiding out for at least 4 nights. That means he saw me. Probably more than once, maybe every night. That voice calling my name, It wasn't a hallucination. That was real. I think that was him testing how close he could get. How far he could push it before I noticed. That's what messes with my head the most. He was probably watching me from the vents or through glass, just waiting. I quit the job the next day, told my supervisor I wouldn't step foot in that building again, not even to grab my last paycheck. And I didn't. I still check over my shoulder when I'm alone in any hallway. Still jump when I hear my name and I'm not expecting it. I don't know what he wanted or what could have happened if I hadn't left early that night, but I think about it more than I'd like to admit. The silence I used to love, it's not comforting anymore. It's a space where anything can be hiding, especially someone who already knows your name. I don't usually post on forums like this, but something happened a few months ago that I still can't wrap my head around. My name's Rachel, I'm 29, and I've been working the night shift at a small roadside motel just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. It's a quiet place, mostly truckers, hikers, and the occasional shady couple who pay cash and don't want receipts. That night started off like any other, slow, quiet, the low hum of the vending machines being the only real sound for hours. I had a hot cup of gas station coffee, my crossword book out, and the cameras pulled up on my little monitor. Nothing ever happens here. Until it does. It was just after 12:30 a.m. when I heard it. A scream. Not a scream from the TV in the manager's room. Not someone messing around in the parking lot. It was raw, panicked, real. And it came from room 209. I remember the exact time because I had just circled spaghetti on the crossword. At first, I froze. It was just one scream, sharp like someone caught off guard. Then silence. No thumping, no footsteps, no voices. Just dead, heavy quiet. I instinctively checked the camera feed for the second-floor hallway, expecting maybe a fight, a break-in, something. But there was nothing. No one outside 209, not even movement. I picked up the phone and called the room. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. I waited a second, then called again. Nothing. I wasn't supposed to leave the front desk unattended, but we're a small place. It's not like we have security. So I grabbed the master key and walked down the hallway, my heart thudding louder with every step. The corridor smelled like old carpet and cleaning spray, same as always, and every door was shut tight. When I got to 209, I stood there for a second listening. Nothing, not even the hum of the AC unit that usually kicks on. I knocked, once, twice, no answer. I used the key to open the door, half expecting to find a couple fighting, or maybe someone overdosing. But the room was empty. I mean completely empty. Bed made, lights off, bathroom door wide open. No bags, no shoes, no signs of anyone ever being there. I stepped inside and immediately got this cold, prickling feeling on my neck, like the air was too still. I did a quick scan. No smashed lamps, no broken mirrors, no stains, nothing. I almost thought I imagined the scream. But then I looked under the bed, just one sneaker, a black Converse, soaked in something dark and sticky. I didn't have to smell it to know it was blood. I backed out of 209 and shut the door like it might bite me. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the key. First thing, I hit the lobby phone and dialed 911, then rang my manager, Lou, who lives 10 minutes away. I tried to keep my voice level, telling dispatch a guest might be hurt, maybe worse, but I could hear it crack anyway. While I waited for the cops, I locked the front doors, something we never do, and replayed the hallway footage over and over. Every time the same thing. The digital clock in the corner rolled from 12:31 to 12:32, and the hallway light flickered once, but no one walked in or out. No sound, no blur, no weird glitches. Just an empty stretch of ugly carpet and taupe walls. Flagstaff PD showed up first, 2 patrol cars, followed by Lou in his beat-up Honda. Officer Tara Morales took the lead, a compact woman with freckles and tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too many graveyard shifts. I walked them up to 209, trying to explain the scream and the blood-soaked shoe without sounding crazy. Morales put on gloves, slipped the Converse into an evidence bag, and did a slow sweep with her flashlight. No other blood, no scratches on the lock, no fingerprints on the knob except mine. She knelt, checked the mattress seams, the vents, even ran her gloved hand along the bathroom tiles. Nothing. Lou kept muttering that we don't even rent 209 most nights because the AC's temperamental, which only made everything feel weirder. Back downstairs, Morales asked to see the booking logs. Our system's ancient, a green screen terminal straight out of 1999, but it gets the job done. According to the roster, room 209 was listed as vacant, needs maintenance. No one had checked in under that room for 3 nights, and the last registered guest was a family from Albuquerque who left without complaint. Morales frowned and asked if someone could have swapped rooms without telling me, but I'm the only one on duty after 10 p.m. I checked the keycard logs too. 0 entries recorded between 9 p.m. and the moment I opened the door myself. It was like whoever screamed never existed in the system, only in my ears. Morales and her partner asked for hallway footage again, this time downloading the segment onto a thumb drive. We zoomed in frame by frame. At exactly 12:31:07 a.m., the hallway light flickered, the timestamp stuttered for half a second, and then, this part made my stomach knot, room 209's door seemed to shift just barely, like it breathed. No one came out, no one went in, yet the door nudged inward a hair and settled. Then everything stayed still until I showed up with my master key. Morales stared at the paused frame, her mouth a hard line, and whispered, "Doors don't do that on their own." That's when Lou noticed a faint dark smudge inside the room's threshold that hadn't been there earlier, a half-moon shape like someone's heel drag. No prints, no shoe to match, just another question stacked on the pile. They wrapped up around 3 a.m. Morales told me they'd file a report, but with no sign of a victim, suspect, or even a confirmed crime, there wasn't much else they could do. I asked her, point blank, if she thought I imagined it. She didn't answer right away, just looked at me like she was deciding something. Then she said, "People don't imagine screams like that." That sentence stuck with me. Lou offered to let me go home early, but I didn't want to leave the desk. Somehow, being behind the counter made me feel like I had some kind of barrier between me and whatever the hell had happened in that room. I watched the sunrise through the glass doors with my 3rd cup of coffee, and absolutely no idea what I was going to say when guests started checking in again. The weird part is, that wasn't the end of it. The next night I came in for my shift like always. Lou was still shaken but didn't say much, just reminded me to log everything, even small stuff. Around 1 p.m., I decided to walk the halls again, just to prove to myself that everything was normal. I climbed the stairs slowly, flashlight in hand, past the same framed prints of canyons and pine trees we've had for decades. When I got to the 2nd floor, I turned the corner and froze. The door to room 209 was ajar, just a sliver, not wide but enough that you could see the edge of the bedspread. I hadn't given out a key. No one was supposed to be in there. I walked straight back to the front desk and checked the keycard logs. Nothing. No entries since I opened it the night before. This time, I brought a wrench from the maintenance closet and jammed the door shut myself. I slipped a note under it. "Do not enter. Room closed for maintenance," and then taped over the latch with duct tape just to be sure. I didn't care if it looked unprofessional. Whatever was happening in there, I wanted no part of it. But the moment I sat back down behind the counter, the printer in the back office started spitting out a blank sheet of paper. Just one. I walked over, picked it up. No smudges, no header, no ink. But it was warm, like it had just been used. The system wasn't connected to the internet and the computer wasn't even on. I threw the paper away, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking for the rest of the shift. I didn't sleep well after that. Every creak in my apartment started sounding like a footstep. Every flicker of the hallway light made my heart skip. I didn't tell anyone, not my sister, not my roommate. Because how do you even start that conversation? "Hey, I think something haunted the empty room at work." Even I didn't believe it, not really. But the next Friday I got a call from Morales. She sounded off, said she'd followed up on room 209 out of curiosity. Turns out 2 years ago there was a registered death in that room. A teenage girl named Alyssa Freeman. Found unresponsive by housekeeping just after checkout. Her cause of death was listed as undetermined trauma. And the weird part? When they found her, she was missing one shoe. That detail hit me like a brick to the chest. One shoe. Just like the bloody sneaker under the bed. I asked Morales if the shoe had been logged or described anywhere. She paused, then admitted there was never a photo attached to the case file, just a line in the report that her left shoe was missing. No brand, no color, nothing. I started to feel sick. There was no way that shoe had just been sitting under the bed for 2 years without someone noticing. We clean those rooms after every stay. Lou does quarterly deep cleans himself. And I was just in that room the week before this all happened to reset the Wi-Fi router. It was clean, empty, no blood, no shoe, nothing. I asked Morales if she thought it was all connected. Alyssa, the scream, the room opening by itself. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. Just said she'd look into it more, and asked me to keep an eye out for anything else. I never saw her again after that. A few days later, a guy in a suit came by claiming to be from corporate maintenance. Said room 209 was being decommissioned for renovation, and took the door handle off completely before sealing the frame shut with plywood. We weren't even told about a renovation. Lou called our regional manager and they had no idea who the guy was. We filed a report, but nothing ever came of it. He left no name, no paperwork, nothing. I still work there, still do the night shift, but I never go upstairs alone anymore. And every once in a while, usually around 12:30, I swear I hear footsteps overhead. Just a few. Soft, like someone pacing. I don't check the cameras when that happens. I don't go look. I just turn the lobby TV up a little louder and wait for it to pass. There's no room 209 anymore. It's just drywall and a fire escape sign now. But sometimes when I walk past the old door frame, I get this sharp, coppery scent, like iron or pennies left out in the sun too long. And even though I know better, part of me always wants to knock just once, but I don't. I never will because I think whatever was in there, it's still there. And it doesn't want to be forgotten.